Chapter 1. From Law Student to Monk. Martin was born on November 10, 1483, in the small town of Eisleben in central Germany. His father, Hans, was a farmer's son. Soon after Martin's birth, Hans moved his family to nearby Mansfeld so he could work in the copper mines. Extracting metal from under the ground was a hard job, but Hans worked diligently and soon became a supervisor. Martin always considered Mansfeld his hometown. Martin had 7 siblings, but only 4 lived to be adults: 3 sisters and his favorite brother Jacob, who was 7 years younger. As a child, Jacob always asked to sit next to Martin at meals and was happy to play with other children only when Martin was there. Hans and his wife, Margarita, were strict by today's standards. Later in life, Martin understood they had meant well. Since Martin liked to study, Hans decided to prepare him to be a lawyer, which was a respectable job and not as exhausting as working in a mine. Hans was willing to make many sacrifices to reach that goal. At age 14, when Martin finished his basic studies at the local school, Hans sent him to study in nearby towns, arranging for his stay with relatives or other families. Martin returned home only for short visits. School rules were harsh. If the children misbehaved, didn't study, or spoke German instead of Latin, the teachers would beat them with a rod. The worst student had to wear a sign around his neck. Students had to learn Latin because it was an important language. It was used for legal documents and was spoken by educated people all over Europe. Sometimes students sang door to door to ask people to support their studies, usually by donating food. The stern school rules, however, had made Martin and his friends so fearful that when a man called in a boorish voice to offer them sausages, the boys ran away in fright and hid until the man managed to reassure them. Much later, Martin explained that we often act in a similar way when we don't believe God's loving promises. We are afraid of a sausage, and we even fear those who wish us the best. In 1501, Martin was admitted into the University of Erfurt, one of the best in the country. He studied hard and graduated with excellence in 4 years, the shortest time possible. In his free time, he liked to sing and play music with his friends, who were an important part of his life. He learned to sing very well and to play both the lute and the flute. In the summer of 1505, just before entering his final course of studies, Martin paid a visit to his family. It was a difficult time for the region. Erfurt had been struck by the plague, a serious illness that had killed so many people that entire cities were left empty. Even some of Martin's friends and teachers had died. Martin was worried about death because he thought he had not done enough to please God. On his way back to college, he was caught in a massive thunderstorm that filled him with terror. Fearful at the thought of having to face God, he cried, "Help me, Saint Anne! I will become a monk!" At that time, Jesus and God were both seen as angry judges of sinners, so people looked for protection from saints, godly people who had died. It was also common to add a promise to do something good in return for the saint's protection.